and the risk of losing all that we've achieved together as a state over the last 4 years.
I call the Honourable Ms Centofanti.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President, and I rise today to speak to the Treasurer's private member's motion. Mr Deputy President, this is a private member's motion that I'm proud to speak to, and being a country member, I will speak to this motion from a regional perspective. Mr Deputy President, Labor governments are bad for our regions, and as a mother and wife who is raising a family and someone who has run small businesses in my region, I can tell you from first-hand experience that the last 4 years have been some of the best in my life, in my family's lives, and in the lives of those who make up our regional communities. Mr Deputy President, prior to the Marshall Liberal government coming to office just 4 short years ago, the regional communities of South Australia were let down time and time again by the former Labor government. There was a backlog of regional road maintenance, roads that the former Labor government refused to fund for basic upkeep. And Mr Deputy President, instead of investing in basic upkeep, they instead chose to reduce speed limits. I don't need to tell you the impact on reducing these speed limits on productivity in our regions, Mr Deputy President. But the Labor Party, instead of choosing to support our primary industries, that is agriculture, food, wine and forestry, which contribute approximately $15 billion annually in revenue for this state, chose to ignore these industries and their country communities, ignore our regional roads, and the Labor Party's answer was to simply reduce speed limits. Well, Mr Deputy President, I am proud to be part of the Marshall Liberal team. We are a government that has delivered for our regions and will continue to deliver for our regions. This government has been getting on with the job quietly, delivering for people in our rural areas. This government is fixing over 1,000 kilometres of regional roads to make them safer and to help save lives. In fact, prior to coming into government in 2018, we made a promise that we would fix the 8 regional roads that the Labor Party left to ruin and reduce speed limits. And, Mr Deputy President, we have done just that. We have fixed and upgraded those 8 roads and have safely reinstated the 110 speed limit slashed by the former Labor government, meaning our primary producers can move their freight more efficiently, more safely, and ensure more money in our state's economy. And, Mr Deputy President, Labor do not seem to care that fatigue is also one of the biggest contributing factors to major accidents and deaths on our regional roads. They are happy for regional road users to spend more time and money in their cars and trucks, risking their lives rather than committing to well overdue improvements. But not the Marshall Liberal government, Mr Deputy President. We value the lives of all South Australians. In addition, Mr Deputy President, we are upgrading a number of strategic regional roads across our state with improvements that include junctional improvements, new overtaking lanes and overtaking lane extensions, pavement resealing and rehabilitation, safety barrier upgrades, and new and upgraded rest areas for improved fatigue management. We are upgrading the Sturt Highway between Renmark and Gawler. We are upgrading the Air Highway and the Lower Air Peninsula roads. We are duplicating the Joy-Belush Bridge. And we are continuing to plan and to invest, Mr Deputy President. We are investing in duplication of the Augusta Highway from near Nantawarra to Lochiel, and we are investing in the Truro bypass to improve productivity and safety in our regions. Working together, the Morrison and Marshall governments have committed $560 million towards the Main South Road and Victor Harbour Road projects. These projects will reduce travel times, improve road safety and increase connectivity and, more importantly, productivity, something the Labor Party, Mr Deputy President, seem to know nothing about. These are just a few examples of our record $17.9 billion infrastructure spend across our state. The Marshall Liberal government is building what matters by delivering more jobs and unlocking our tourism industry to benefit all South Australians. But infrastructure is just one piece of the puzzle, Mr Deputy President, and the Marshall Liberal government is committed to preserving our natural environment and safeguarding our biosecurity. That includes our commitment to eradicating fruit fly from South Australia, supporting our growers and maintaining the state's pest-free area. More than $34 million has been spent on eradicating fruit fly from South Australia, with another $17 million allocated in the recent state budget. We are playing our part in protecting South Australia's $1.3 billion horticultural industry, 37,500 jobs and 4,000 businesses. Mr Deputy President, the Labor government is happy to take preferences from the Greens. But what did they do in their 16 years of government to introduce sensible measures to protect and preserve our natural environment for generations to come? And that answer is simple, Mr Deputy President, nothing of note. The Marshall Liberal government has been a strong advocate for our environment under the stewardship of Minister David Spears. I'm particularly proud of our policy around single-use plastics and the steps we have taken to remove them. Many of these products, Mr Deputy President, end up in our waterways and land environments and have a catastrophic impact on the environment and delicate ecosystems. We've unlocked some of our state's reservoirs, like Myponga and Happy Valley, and proclaimed South Australia's newest conservation park, the Aldinga Conservation Park. The people of South Australia have welcomed these changes. We are passionate about getting people into our natural environment and enjoying the very best that our state has to offer. And Mr Deputy President, we are committed to continuing to invest in all aspects of regional health, including regional road infrastructure and maintenance, education and health services. In doing so, we can ensure that the highest quality of living, of which healthcare is a critical aspect, as are roads, as are education, is available to all South Australians, no matter where they live. Mr Deputy President, the Marshall Liberal government have reduced the cost of living for families across this state. In 2017 and 2018, under the former Labor government, the median annual energy bill for households totalled over $2,200. Since coming to government, we have put in measures to reduce these costs and have progressively increased savings for households right across our state, such as the median annual energy bill for households in 2020-2021 under our government was $1,784, a not insignificant average saving of $416 per household. We have reduced car registration costs through lower compulsory third-party insurance premiums, and we have also delivered cheaper ESL bills and cheaper water bills. And Mr Deputy President, we won't talk about the inquiry that was performed by the former South Australian Water Chairman, Mr Lewis Owens, back in 2019 that found that in 2013 the former Labor government deliberately jacked up the assets of SA Water, costing everyday households to drive extra revenue into their government coffers so they could improve their bottom line. Mr Deputy President, the Leader of the Opposition himself concedes Labor let people down. Remember the Oakton nursing home scandal, the mismanagement of the TAFE sector and the problems within child protection. Mr Deputy President, who could forget the statewide blackout in 2016 that put lives at risk, inflicted immense damage to our economy and made us the laughing stock of the nation? Labor couldn't even keep the lights on. And then we can talk about health. And I spoke about health earlier on today. And let's look at Labor's history in health in our state, but particularly in our regions. In 2008, Labor tried to downgrade, even close, dozens of hospitals in country South Australia. And in December 2017, Opposition Leader Peter Malinauskas and Labor closed the REPAT, which provided care for older patients and veterans, many of whom originated from our regions, despite former Premier Mike Rand's pledge it would never ever be closed. by a Labor government. Between 2014 and 2018, Labor spent a mere $14 million in total on regional health infrastructure. That equates to a mere $3.5 million per year spent in our regions. In comparison, the Marshall Liberal government has already delivered for health in our regions and has spent more than $70 million in its first 3 years. This, Mr Deputy President, equates to $23.33 million per year. We have completed the upgrade to the Murray Bridge Emergency Department, as well as significant upgrades at a number of regional hospitals across our state. We are also upgrading our suburban hospitals, including significant improvements to Flinders Medical Centre, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Modbury Hospital, Lyle McEwen, and revitalisation of the Repat site. This investment takes pressure off our major hospitals, which in turn benefits country patients that may require transfer to a metropolitan hospital. We're also building the new Women's and Children's Hospital to provide holistic, world-class health care and facilities for babies, children, young people, women and their families. This commitment is in addition to upgrades to these existing hospital sites. We have committed more than $200 million to regional health infrastructure projects. This is more than double Labor's recent commitment. Projects such as the Mount Barker Hospital Emergency Department upgrade, the Whyalla Hospital Accident and Emergency Department redevelopment, the new Strathalbyn Ambulance Station and a new Barossa Hospital. And in a landmark agreement with rural GPs, we are investing an estimated $188 million over 2 years to ensure we are attracting and retaining GPs to regional South Australia. This agreement comes after years of dispute with the former Labor government, who refused to listen to our country health professionals and refused to budge on improving conditions for our country GPs.
How much have we got?
Oh, not much. One page. The Marshall Liberal government is doing everything it can to ensure that the highest quality care is available to all South Australians. There is so much to celebrate about the work that the Marshall Liberal government has done for South Australians in 4 short years, Mr Deputy President, which is a stark contrast to what the previous Labor government achieved, or rather failed to achieve, in its 16 years of reign. South Australians' unemployment rate is its lowest rate ever, at 3.9%. This is much better than Labor's average rate of 6.8% in their last term, and Labor's lowest rate of 5.6% for the same period, that is 2014 to 2018. And what's even more staggering is this state has achieved this whilst dealing with a pandemic. South Australia has the fastest growing economy in the country. The Marshall Liberal government is creating more jobs and supporting businesses through our $4 billion stimulus and $17.9 billion investment in roads, education, sporting and health infrastructure across our state. Job vacancies are at record highs, and we have stopped the brain drain caused by Labor in its tracks, with the highest number of people moving to our state in around 4 decades. We know that there is plenty of more work to do, but we know that by keeping South Australia safe and strong, we can continue to recover from the COVID pandemic, support businesses and create more jobs. Mr Deputy President, the Marshall Liberal government has delivered what matters for all South Australians, and we cannot afford another term of Labor. They failed in regional investment, they failed in economic management, they failed in health, they failed in roads, and they failed our state.
The Honourable Mr Hunter.
Now adjourned.
Is that second? A second to put the question. Those for questions say aye. Against, say no. The ayes have it. Minister.
The debate taken count on motion.
Is that second? Second. Put the question. Those for questions say aye. Against, say no. The ayes have it.
Council will be suspended until the ringing of the bells.
Second to put the question. Those for questions say aye. Against, say no. The ayes have it.